Harvey County Talk, a program brought to you by Harvey County Digital. Harvey County Talk, where we can talk about any public policy or with any public official without stooping to or duping you with usual partisan politics. I am your host, Lance Gormley. Our sponsor for this episode is Newtons Against Higher Water Rates. Newtons Against Higher Water Rates is a committee made up of local like-minded community members who are asking you to just say no. Call or email one of your city commissioners. Attend a meeting. Call or email one of your friends. Sit down and have a chat. Call or email anyone you can and tell them just say no. No to an increase in our water rates. Newtonians Against Higher Water Rates. Our guest for today's program is Ed Myers. Ed has been a lifelong Newtonian, and for many of those years, he's been involved in policy and politics. Ed truly bleeds red, white, and blue. And many of you probably know him as a vocal, passionate, and outgoing local figure. I've personally known Ed for a few years now, and I'm here to tell you, Ed is an active and participatory member of our community. Ed is currently leading the charge with fellow members of the community close behind, protesting any kind of increase to our water rates. Ed is the spokesperson for the Newtonians Against Higher Water Rates Committee. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Ed Myers to the program. Ed, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Would you do me a favor and flick your light on, Ed? All right. Anybody that's been following the water rates issue over the last few years, it's been quite the discussion. We recently came out and said that we were going to be looking into this issue and that we would be bringing something to the public that would be relevant, especially when it comes to maybe both sides or where we are in our predicament and just give people a voice. And so after seeing an article in the Newton Kansan, an ad that showed that there was a committee to make sure that Newton might not see an increase to their water rates, I sought out to find the individual or individuals responsible. I was glad to find that it was somebody that I had a relationship with in the past, and I do know Ed. Ed is the treasurer for the local Harvey County Republican Party. I've known Ed to be very involved in many ways, and I've always admired your tenacity. So with that being said, we have decided that we are going to do a two-part or three-part program where we have somebody from the community, a spokesperson that is just simply against having an increase to your water rates, as well as that we have a program coming up where we'll be discussing with Newton commissioners about that issue as well. So it will kind of give us an opportunity to have both sides represented. I would really like to say just in advance, Ed, that I appreciate you. I appreciate that you're coming out, you're being vocal, you're advocating against something within our community that a lot of people are talking about. And I believe that you've done that in a diplomatic way. I know I've seen you at the city commission meetings speaking out, and this is an opportunity for Newtonians Against Higher Water Rates to have a voice. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate you having me. Let me start off with something I did 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I went to a city commission meeting and complained about our water rates at that time, which I thought were much higher than most communities around this area. And indeed it is. And I was told at that time, they told me to, don't worry, because when the bonds are paid off, the industrial bonds that were used to pay for our water system were to be paid off in 2026, that we would see at least a third reduction in our water rates. But at this time, we're finding that that's not going to be the case, that what we were looking for and that the water rates would eventually come down are not coming down, but actually are going to go up. So this was a very disturbing thing. I mean, I use a lot of water because I have a nice lawn, and I appreciate having a lawn and trees and shrubbery. This is the thing that I like to have. But I've noticed in our community that very few people nowadays have lawns. They're not taking care of their shrubbery and trees because they can't afford to water them. So that really kind of got me started on the issue, and to find out that locally our water rates are going to be much higher than communities around us. They're going to be much higher than Wichita's. So there's a growth problem there that I will get back to in a little bit. But first of all, I want to talk little bit about some economic principles that in economics, when you have a monopoly like the city is, and if you raise the tax or raise the rates for water, the Supreme Court says that is a tax. So when a monopoly forces people to pay more, that is a tax. So we need to call it a water tax to start off with.
Okay. And let me ask a question and walk back on, and I want to walk back just a little bit here. Before I say anything else, I remember when you were there. I'm sure I was at the same meeting. I could swear I was at the same meeting in which this was an issue that was being talked about, and I know there was people vocal. And I'm almost 100% sure I was there at that time, and it has been an issue that has continued to be talked about. And I don't know if you read it, but I did a 7-part series of a breakdown on the utility bill. I interned for the city, and that can be found at Lance Gormley for Newton on my Facebook page. It's the top post. I'll leave it there throughout this discussion so people can go back and they can just dive into our utility bill. And that will bring people up to speed on some of the stuff you're talking about. With the direction that we're going, so if I'm right, what took place was city management came to the commission and said, hey, we might need to be raising these rates. And it was towards the water portion of that, or was that towards just the utility bill in general? Do you remember specifically what they said?
Specifically, I remember it's more the water rates were very high at the time. And the city, as I understand it, had an opportunity to buy 20-year bonds or to buy 10-year bonds to pay off the industrial bonds that were used for water. And they decided to have only 10-year bonds because they said that would save money for the city by paying them off sooner. And the promises were made at that time. Yes, we're going to have a higher rate of interest because we're going to pay it off 10 years instead of 20 years. But when the time comes, 2026, when they're paid off, water rates would go down significantly.
Yes, I remember them having the conversation that once the sewer treatment facility was paid off, that was supposed to be a rebate back to the community.
That was what I was
Agreed.
told.
Agreed. And that's supposed to happen in 2026.
That's correct.
And now they're getting confronted with an issue, from what I understand, and they'll talk about the problems that they're facing. But ultimately, because of the reason, we'll fill in the blank, whatever's creating this problem. Now it's looking like they are wanting just to raise the rates in general. Is that correct? Yes.
Well, as I understand it, they're talking about 3 rate increases that would be like, I don't exactly know the details, but they would be coming 3 different periods of time over a period of about 3 years. This would be the first year, and then the follow up with another rate the second year, and then another rate the third year. And it would total at least eventually to 15% or maybe even more. We don't know the details on that because they haven't actually been finalized, from what I understand.
What are some of the ideas that you have heard running around right now? I know I have heard a few. I know that I've been trying to keep on top of this too, and that there's some things like you're talking about, a 3-tier program, right? Or something where they're going to do it gradually.
Right.
I've heard that there's a possibility that they could just say a specific percentage increase to your utility rates. I've heard that there's even a possibility that with those bonds are paid off, that they may just not give that back and use that funding or whatever. But what are some? I mean, aren't there multiple different things floating around right now?
But ultimately, there may be, but I think the commissioners are keeping it to themselves in executive session. They're not coming out and telling us, the public, what they're planning to do. They have these executive sessions where the public isn't involved, and they're discussing this amongst themselves. They haven't actually come out and said exactly what they're going to do. One of the principles I would like to bring up, when you talk about raising rates, what people are likely to do when they find that their water bill keeps going up is they're going to use less water. What happens when they use less water? That means less revenue. So they're actually finding out that raising the rates mean less water, less revenue for the city, because people aren't going to use as much water, and so it's simple as that. You think people are not going to even water their lawns now? I mean, they may not even want to flush the toilet as much.
Yeah.
So
frankly, so what you're saying is that even though there might be multiple issues that they could be talking about right now, you just want to stop it at the head. You want to say it doesn't matter what one of those issues that you present is, if it has any kind of an increase to our utility rate, it should be a no-go.
Absolutely. And the thing of it is, the commissioners, they're getting all this data from the staff. The staff is telling them what to do. Okay, this is the impression I'm getting.
Agreed. City manager's responsibility.
But I think the commissioners need to be thinking about the public out there. Remember, we're in a 40-year high of inflation right now. 40-year high in inflation. People are having the pain of paying more for food, electricity, and gas. These things are all going up, and then the city wants to increase our pain by having higher water rates. And so to me, the city isn't looking out for the public that they're supposed to. That's supposed to be their primary concern, is the public that they're representing. Not the staff. The staff is, in my opinion, is saying jump, and the city commission is saying, well, how high? And this is something.
And I got a question about that, because that's interesting that you say that. I know that with my education and understanding the dynamics of government and city government, county government, that in our form of government, the city management is the CEO of the Newton. Let's just call it that. I won't say that, but our elected officials provide that check and balance. So I heard you say that it's like the city manager or the city management tells them to do something, and then they just go and do it. Now, I will say this. For most of the time, that's kind of what takes place, just in general. But with this issue, because there are citizens that are reaching out, and there are people that are talking, to commissioners and emailing them, similar to you, that now that just changes the dynamics. So do you think that they're going forward, that there is a hope that the commission that's currently on there right now are weighing all options and really considering?
Let me
because I can say the Newton could have a fault in the past. I've seen what you're saying, but with our current commission, do you think that there's any difference than the past?
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not. One little interesting fact is that the city paid $7,000 to a firm that is doing polling. That's supposed to do polling for the city to get the perspective of the citizens out there, to see what they think about different issues. So they've had this polling company for about 4 months now.
Flash vote.
Yeah, Flash Vote is the name of it.
Yes.
And I'm on. I get the emails from Flash Vote, and I give them my opinion.
Yeah, I do too.
And they haven't asked one thing about water rates in this Flash Vote. They haven't asked the citizens what they think about increasing water rates. I think that's kind of odd. Of all the issues that are out there, why not ask the citizens what they think about raising water rates?
Okay. Can I play the devil's advocate
Sure.
for a moment? Thinking about this process, and I truly believe that this is the process that's supposed to take place, which is that the city management comes and says, hey, we have this problem. This is how we feel it should be solved. The commission decides whether that's the best thing or not. They go back. They tell them to go back. This discussion takes place back and forth. The best thing that can happen is to have citizen input. And I think that we are really moving in a good direction to do the flash vote, because I do the flash vote thing too. But I got a question. Would it be better to do one with options to give people choices than to just ask one question? Like if I was to ask a question, do you want your taxes increased? What do you think the poll would be on that?
Well, I think, I think that's possibly a good idea, to give people some options if they want to, if they want to do that. But the thing of it is, they haven't even asked the question. Period. It's not even been asked.
That's a fair criticism. That is a fair criticism.
If you don't
I like
ask
that.
it, how are you going to get an answer?
So Ed would like for that to go out, and I think that's a interesting thing. I don't know why that couldn't go out, and that people could not do that. I think that's a reasonable thing. I'm with you, Ed. Make the demand, Ed. You want the city of Newton to put in there on their flash vote. Use their flash vote.
Let's talk a little bit about, growth too, and
that's a hard one.
Every city wants to grow, I would think.
Well, just mind you, over the last 10 years, we have not.
No.
At all.
Well, we have that industrial park that's basically a racetrack.
Well, and not only that, but if you talk to some of the commissioners, they can give you the data on that, and it's very, very small rate of tax that they've been able to pull in because of the economic growth that they hoped would take place. And that's not anybody's fault that's on the commission today, but it is a problem and an obstacle that I hope they're solving.
And how are we supposed to grow when the company's looking at Newton as a possible place to set up a business, and when they find out we got the highest water rates in the area, higher than Wichita? I mean, that isn't really a very good selling point.
Yeah.
So, and another thing, we just had in Newton one of the highest property tax increases in the history of the city, an 8 mil property tax increase. Yeah. Now that's pretty tough, and that's bad enough. And then when they come around and add another tax and add your water bill goes higher, which is a tax again, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. And I have told the commissioners at a citizens forum, I said, let's look at this from a political standpoint. If you want to run again for this office, what is your platform? I raised the highest property tax in the city history. I also raised your water tax, raised your water fees. And that is your platform? I can assure you, if anybody wants to run against one of these commissioners at the next election, that they don't have a chance when their opponent brings this out and says, you raised the property tax, you raised my water fees. I mean, I'm not voting for you. It doesn't make any sense why anybody would. So
I got a question.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to try to hone in on this. I know, and everybody knows, that there's a lot going on right now with things that are out of our control, even locally. There is the fact that my groceries are costing more, my gas is costing more, everything is costing more. It's almost crazy, the price of eggs. I mean, you just joke about it. But at the same time, I guess I asked the question, what maybe, the city's suffering from that same kind of inflation. The county's suffering from that same kind of inflation. All public, nonprofit, everybody, businesses included, are suffering from that type of inflation. I mean, I know I just saw a sign that you had posted that said inflation causes goods to go up because private businesses pass that on to the consumer. Mm-hmm. Correct.
Right. Okay? That's one of my signs I had raised.
So in the public,
higher taxes paid by companies are just passed along by the products you buy.
And that is a correct statement. Yeah. And I believe that. When we get into the situation in the city, I know I'm looking at their budgets, and I know I'm studying this, and I'm watching this all happen. I guess it is, are you critical of the handling of the inflation that's taken place, and the result is to raise taxes or rates, or do you think that there's that it's some form of not doing the hard work it's going to take by city management to not raise your taxes while balancing everything out? Because there's that push-pull argument.
Okay, the principle is, when you're a commissioner, to me, this is my opinion, you should look out for the public that you are being representing them. You're representing the public. And your first concern is to help the public, okay? And that means by increasing jobs for the public and growing the community. So you need to do everything you can to make the city grow. You don't do that by constantly making it more expensive to live here. So this is the thing. It's not my job to figure out why, how they should.
Good call.
Good
call. I got you there.
I mean, that's what we
pay them to do. For. Yeah, we elect them, and then we pay the city manager to make it happen.
There comes a point where they tell the staff that we're not going to raise water rates. You need to have to figure out how to cut the cost so that we don't raise rates. Okay. I'm not saying we're ever going to cut rates. I was hoping to cut rates in 2026. Whether that happens, I don't know. It doesn't look like it, but nevertheless, to raise rates now is just, with inflation going on at 40-year high is crazy, in my opinion. So economically, you're saying a no because it's stifling. It's going to stifle any kind of growth that we hope to see the next. It's going to stifle the growth. We got that industrial park. It's just sitting out there for the last 15 years and it's done nothing. You got roads out there that go to nowhere. Kids use them as a racetrack, and so I mean, it's the job of the city staff to figure out how to deal with this. Not to say automatically we need to raise rates. And so the commissioners need to let the staff know, you got to tell us how you can cut rates. Now, I know that there's one commissioner that has spoken up, and he said, I can't see how we could raise rates on the public, and that's Mr. McBroom. He's mentioned this, that he said we can't raise rates when we've already raised property taxes at a historical high, and then going ahead and raise water rates. It's just, he said, we just can't do that. We need to make some cuts to figure out how we can deal with this. And so I at least applaud him for saying that. Now, we don't know what his ultimate vote is going to be at this point, but that's what he has mentioned in the past when he was talking about this issue at the meetings.
Well, I'm hopeful that at a commission meeting coming up, it will be on the agenda, some of the options that management has come back for the commission to consider. Mm-hmm. That we still have yet to have happen, correct?
Correct. We haven't heard of any options. Now, anything that they have done so far, they have kept in closed meetings. So we just not getting a lot of information. I think we need more information of what they're talking about. They need to tell us what they're going to do or what they think are options. But so far we haven't heard anything. And maybe we'll get some more information at the next couple meetings coming up. I don't know, but I'm hopeful. But
well, I know all eyes and things that you're talking about. I've heard people in the community talk about. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we're doing what we're doing now, is because we really want for people to be informed and know what's going on and watch, and that helps hold commissioners accountable, and that helps hold management accountable. What's something else you got? Come on, Ed. I'm interested. I'm interested in what you're saying. You've made some very viable points.
Well, I think the one thing that I think that's important too is the economic principle of the more you tax, the less you get back. And if they keep raising the rates, people are going to keep using less water, which means less revenue. And I think that's, and things are only going to get worse. We're going to see fewer lawns, more trees dying, more shrubbery dying, because people can't afford to use their water to water their lawn or their shrubbery and trees. And Newton's going to continue to look worse when people drive through the community and see what lousy landscapes people have.
So city beautification. You're very worried about if there's an increase in that there will be a continued decrease in city beautification by citizens. You're concerned that because of inflation and things out of our control, coupled with an 8 mil increase, along with the year previous property evaluation increase, and then now, is why, I guess my question is, where do you choose to fight and then not fight, Ed? If I'm a citizen, okay, and I'm here and I'm saying, all right, is a $10 or $15 increase to my water bill really that big of a deal to me? Okay, or if I have to pay, because there's two parts that are going on in Newton. We have people that $20 is going to break them, and then you have another person that $20 is not anything. Then you have in a situation where somebody that they can take that 8 mil increase and they can deal with that, and then other people that's a deal breaker for them.
Well, I think if you look at the
so if you're talking to somebody in the community,
the community as a whole, we have a significant amount of people that are retired and on fixed incomes, and I think of course these people are going to be hurt the most. I personally know people that have gardens, that actually in the spring when they plant a garden, they plan on living off of their garden, eating, their fruits of their garden, and they have to use city water. And so really it boils down to having the garden to survive, and being able to pay for the water bill may not be profitable to have a garden, and maybe you won't be. Maybe your diet is going to be affected by not being able to have a garden.
Yeah.
And I mean, those are just small things, but they do mount up. So yeah, we needed to think about people on retired and fixed incomes, and they don't always have a big voice, but we need to think about them. We need to think about those poor folks that are on fixed income, living off of Social Security. Isn't much to live off of. And if you're trying to survive by having a garden, that even makes it worse if you can't afford the water. So, I think another thing is kind of interesting that people they're going to have this on their mind all the time, especially in the summertime, about my water rates are going to be more expensive, so I have to use less water.
Well, it ain't just during the summertime, Ed. I'm one of these people, okay? I'm one of these people that literally, I listen to see if I can hear water running, and if I do, I immediately fix the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, I immediately fix the problem. If it means that a flapper needs replaced on a toilet, I mean, I can't even tell you.
Yeah.
There is not a leak in my home.
Yeah.
But if I was somebody, okay, I'm talking to you, and what you're saying is resonating with me. I think we still have a problem, and we have to figure our way out, but I think you're doing an adequate job, definitely on behalf of Newtonians against higher water rates, of advocating for some real solid points that resonate with all of us. And I'm just going to tell you that what you're saying is resonating with me.
Well, I told the commissioners, I said, you raise water rates, and everybody's got to know who voted to raise the water rates. So every time somebody flushes their toilet, they're going to be thinking about you, buddy.
Name recognition. That's how you get elected. Okay, I got a question, Ed. All right. So if I was a person sitting here today and you had the opportunity to get right into my ear, we were talking at the beginning of this, you're like, I've done this, we're doing this, and we're just doing this to get this information out. And that's one thing you're doing here right now today.
Right.
And I appreciate you. So as we're getting this information out, the difficulty is getting that information to people's ears. I mean, you're going above and beyond. In fact, people can honk at you and wave today at Walmart later today because you're holding the sign saying, hey, wake up, people. This is something that's going on.
I got my sign. I'll be out today with my sign telling people that the city you need to notify your city commissioner and not let them raise water rates.
Yes. So if I was a person, and you're speaking to everybody. I normally wrap up the program with saying, you got directly to speak to the hearts and minds of everybody that's listening. But I want you to use this as an opportunity to speak directly to the hearts and the minds of citizens in Newton and tell them what you think they need to know about this issue?
They need to know that the city has plans to raise their water rates in 3 different installments, is what I understand. And this is going to be decided by the end of this month of January 2023. So the best way, in my opinion, is to go to the city commission meeting and line up and speak to the citizens forum and give them tell them how you feel and show some anger about raising the rates that they can no longer afford with this 40-year high of inflation. So that's the best way. Now, you can also email the city commissioners. I don't think that's really read that and they take a lot of stock in that. The best way is to actually show up. We have a meeting coming up this Tuesday, which is the 10th of January, and then I think there'll be another meeting following that. I don't know the exact date, but show up. I think showing up is the best way to show that you're not for this. Obviously, this poll company is not even bothering to ask the question, so they can't even, they won't get that $7,000 that the city is spending on this polling firm. It seems like a waste of money when they don't even ask the right questions. So that's what I think that the public needs to do. Show up at the meetings. Complain. Tell them why. You're not ready and you're not willing to want to pay higher rates. And by the way, paying higher rates is a tax. It's an additional tax on the property tax that they just raised.
Thank you, Ed. I just want to say, if you want to contact or be a part of Newtonians Against Higher Water Rates, you can find them on Facebook. They do have a Facebook page. Just search in Newtonians Against Higher Water Rates. You can plug in there. You can message. You can ask for what you can do or how do you plug in to be participatory and active in this process on behalf of making sure that we don't have an increase to our utility rates. And it's Newtonians. Ed? I want to thank you.
Okay.
Well, there you have it, folks, and thanks for listening to this episode of Harvey County Talk. This is Lance Gormley reminding you to be informed, stay informed, get registered if you're not already, and go vote. Good day, good night, or good riddance. Either way, we hope to catch you next time. Tune in or tune out.
I think I did it.